Just this year, on May 2nd, former NFL linebacker Gene Sale committed suicide by a fatal wound to the chest in his San Diego home. Just earlier last year, former Chicago Bears Dave Jefferson committed suicide the same way as Junior. By both men shooting themselves in the chest, leaving the brain intact, the doctors can have a chance to research football-related head injuries. And just 2 months ago, former Charger, four-time Pro Bowler Chris Dillman retired because of repeated concussions he suffered and a concussion scare he had last year against the Jets. These three men are only a few examples of an issue the NFL and other contact sports have been dealing with for a very long time. What effects do repeated head injuries have on long-term health? The issue of head injuries and concussions must include not only treating them, but also preventing them and, at the very least, minimizing them. First, we need to understand what a concussion is. The Mayo Clinic defined a concussion as a traumatic brain injury that alters the way your brain functions. Effects usually temporary, but can include problems like headaches, concentration, memory, judgment, balance, and coordination. The brain is like the yolk of the egg. It is soft and it floats in a fluid called the cerebrospinal fluid, and then it is enclosed in the skull. The fluid helps protect the brain against minor injuries, but if the force is strong enough, like a 350-pound tackle, the brain bounces against the hard, rigid bone of the skull. Recent studies of retired NFL players have shown that there is a correlation between history of concussions and leads to dementia or damage, including depression and memory loss. Anne McKee at Boston University studied the autopsy of 15 former NFL players, and 14 of them had CTE, which is chronic traumatic disease. Concussions or other brain-related injuries are part or a consequence of contact sports. Recent studies have reported that up to 15% of professional football players suffer brain injuries. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have reported not just professional athletes that play contact sports, but also teenage high school football players is the number up to 2 million head injuries. These injuries are more troublesome than reported injuries in the professional sports, since their brains are still maturing, and any injury may affect brain development and loss. A study in 2004 that a student with multiple concussions is more likely to experience a drop of memory performance and loss. Stephen Bogilo, director of Neurotrauma Research Laboratory and assistant professor at UM School of Kinesiology, have been researching how many hits high school kids, how many young high school football players experience a season. How many hits a season? The number of hits were measured by a special helmet with sensors that measured impacts. His research has shown that high school players, on average, have 650 impacts per season. A concussion occurs roughly 90 to 100 G-forces, equals to smashing your skull against a wall at 20 miles per hour. Bogilo hopes to take this information and help his understanding of how to better protect players and the effects of concussions, and if any, future effects. One of the key components to minimize concussions is equipment. While there is no helmet to prevent players from getting concussions, a well-diagnosed, good-fitting helmet can reduce the risks. Virginia Tech has become a leader in researching what type of impact, speed, and angle of the impact are more likely to result in a concussion. Virginia Tech has created a helmet rating system that is respected, used by high schools, colleges, and professional teams. Other key components is that players wear a properly fitted helmet. Joshua Tong, MD at Temple University, said, that these players were an 82% less likely to experience loss of consciousness with a concussion. With the premier football high schools in the nation, modern day, is a leader of designing a program to prevent and treat concussions. Modern day closely monitors the players and encourages players to monitor each other. The coaches and staff closely monitor the players during the game and perform a version of sport concussion assessment tools to identify if the player has any symptoms. Players are also given a test originally developed by the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 90s and now used by every NHL and NFL team. The player is given a set of cognitive tests, which are then measured against the same tests given before the beginning of the season. If the high school player score is significantly different from the first test, the player will not allow to return to the field within 10 days, so they have time to heal the brain and rest it. Important components is training coaches, athletic trainers, and players to understand how serious head injuries are and their treatment. In the case of Chris Delman, the recently retired guard for the San Diego Chargers, when he sustained his concussion against the Jets last year, he continued to play. This probably made things worse. Delman had to be hospitalized when he returned to the team to San Diego. At the end of the year, he realized that his concussions are very serious, and he retired to have a very long and healthy life. Around this time, concussions became a serious matter in contact sports and the death of Junior Seau. The New Orleans Saints were fined heavily for the NFL for their bouncy scandal. They gave bonuses to players for in-game performances on the field, such as linebacker Jonathan Vilma got $10,000 for knocking out Kurt Warner and Brett Favre in the 2009 season or playoffs. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell wanted to set a warning to all teams by fining the Saints $500,000, taking away 2 second-round picks this year and next year in 2013, including banning 4 players like Vilma and head coach Sean Payton. Since football and other contact sports are not going to go away, we need to do something to improve equipment, educate players, coach, and trainers, adjust some of the rules, and prevent future head-to-head collisions. Probably the most difficult change is the culture of the game for both players and fans. Thank you.
So, Crystal, what did you think?
I thought he did read a lot from his notes, but his speech was informative, and he had good examples, and I didn't know about the football players. There's about 2 million that have the concussion or pretty negative, so it's surprising, and yeah, pretty good.
Okay. Zach, there's a lot of information in the speech. I think you've got some good statistics and examples to point to. Usually you cite the information, but you're not always consistent about that, and you want to be sure to do that. For example, I'm sure you read about the modern day program somewhere, but I don't get a source citation on that. At the beginning of the speech, you ID'd what the subject is, but not exactly what your purpose is, and you signpost the first point that you get to it, but there's no preview of what the supporting structure is, so I don't know when you're getting to your next point, and I think that that's a little bit of a problem. And the delivery issues are, I'm going to say them, you are reading your speech. You have virtually no eye contact. Your voice does not vary much. You've got the speech in your hands, so you're not engaged in gesturing and moving in a particular way. You're just, it's like, you look like you're reading your report back in the 4th grade kind of thing, and you really need to, we need to be out of that. That should be old school stuff for us. All right. Thank you very much for your patience sticking out that extra speech today. Please leave your SLO evaluation forms up there, and if you did a written evaluation for one of the speakers today, turn that in to me.